Welcome to People Potential with Amanda. Thank you for listening in today. I'm your host, Amanda Fleising, and I'll be bringing on various experts to discuss empowering individuals and organizations to achieve their full potential. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of People Potential with Amanda. Today, I'm privileged to have Dr. Carlos Davidovich as my guest. Carlos, welcome.
Thanks a lot, Amanda. I'm delighted to be here and to be part of this podcast.
Can you please introduce yourself and tell our guests a little bit of who you are, a little bit about your history, and then we'll continue to go into it with our questions.
Okay. I will do it very briefly. I'm originally born and raised in Argentina, and most of my life I was there. I studied medicine. I worked as a medical doctor for many years, and at the same time, I was working in the pharmaceutical business in one specific area called biotechnology, that we used to call it the science fiction of pharma, and still is really, because I mean it's quite of the avant-garde about genetic engineering and all this stuff. I did those two things for more than 20 years, and in one moment I decided to leave Argentina and to move to Europe, and was not connected with work, so something personal, and I decided to go there, and I found out there was no way to practice medicine or to go to pharma. So I had to reinvent it myself. And I've done it, I did it. And I ended working in leadership development. I mean, giving, let's say, webinars and workshops on leadership as executive coach. That is still what I'm doing today. And was in Europe that I started working in this new area that we will define later called neuromanagement. In 2013, I was honored to be invited to live and work in Canada. So I went and to Toronto specifically, and I was working there for Optimum Talent for 7 years. And the pandemic brought me back to Europe. So now I'm back in Europe, doing exactly the same thing. I'm still executive coach. I still giving webinars and lectures on neuromanagement, and working, of course, with Successfinder as much as I can.
Thank you, Carlos. So, jumping into like your original profession was in internal medicine as a medical doctor. So, knowing this about you in your move, what prompted you to get specifically? You could have done anything, a variety of things when you went to Europe. What prompted you to go into coaching or executive coaching? That's a pretty big jump.
Definitely yes. And I will respond, I will start from the end. The purpose of the goal of medicine is to help people, let's say, to heal, yeah, right, in some way. I think a coaching is similar. So it doesn't use the same reasons or motivations. So it's not about sign and symptoms, but in the end, it's supporting people and helping people to be their best and to be in their best, in this case, state of mind, in life, or whatever. So this is, I will say, the conclusion. But why I moved to one, or how I moved from medicine to coaching, I will say it's something that's more connected with the mystery of life. So in another word, life was pushing me to move from one place to the other. I have this opportunity and I took it. The all saying, if you want to hear God laugh, tell him that you have plans.
Yeah, I
So
think that's an old Yiddish proverb from what I've heard from my grandparents, actually.
I didn't know that.
So, jumping into, we know neuroscience. So you talk a lot about
Yeah.
neuroscience is the scientific study of how the brain works. But can you tell us more about neuromanagement, which is
Yeah.
your specialty?
What I do, and I like to present it in this way, is to bridge two worlds. What I do is to try to bring all the latest finding in neuroscience that can be applicable in organizations and business. So I don't talk about science. I try to be as more practical possible. And what I do is to find out what happened in science, I mean, in neuroscience in particular, and those findings that are connected with human behavior, I bring it to organizations. And then I can support, or I can share all these foundations and why people behave in certain way, how to communicate properly with people. So all these things today has more, I would say, support based on neuroscience. I don't know if it makes sense, Amanda.
Absolutely. So, what's the impact that you can have with neuromanagement on organizational performance?
People love to know more about themselves and mainly about our brain. Every time I give a presentation, of course, I present a model of 5 brains, and that really impacts a lot to the audience. What that, how that is connected with performance? I will say that most of the time we are dealing with very rational people, and I say it in a positive way. So the rational brain, that is one of the 5, needs to understand things. At the moment I explain why they need to communicate in certain way, and I support it with data, people don't lose a minute to apply it and to do it. So don't get me wrong. I will say a fan of EQ, of the emotional intelligence, but not everyone are open to those concepts. At the moment you bring neuroscience in the middle, that in the end is about emotional intelligence a lot, that will allow the people will listen better and will be more eager to put it in practice. Performance is about human behavior in certain way. What I try to bring to the table is more information on how to do it in a better way and a more productive way. Make sense?
Absolutely. So, you give people the logic behind it, which helps convince them to take actions and supports your methods. And I'd love to perhaps after, if you'd be open to sharing something about the 5 brains in our show notes, I'd love to give some links for our audience to go have a read.
Okay. Yeah, I can do it perfectly. We can do that after, right?
Amazing.
It's
So,
exactly what you said. I mean, even though, and sorry I interrupt you,
of
Amanda,
course, no worries.
um, even though, I mean, the truth is that we are emotional being with a brand new rational software that still we don't trust. But we need to keep the rational brain calm, and in control, because it has to be in control, by the way.
Mhm.
So what I'm trying to say is even explaining to people, to let's say executive, C-level, I mean people that are leaders, to explain to them the importance of emotions in a way that doesn't sound like an emotional thing. Because it's not. I mean, in the end, is the way people relate to each other through emotions and instinct mainly, not through irrational thoughts. And at the moment, people start understanding how the game is in the brain, they really want to learn on how to do it better.
Yeah, I think some people might have it very naturally and be very empathetic or have that high EQ, as some people say, or others might not. But if they understand rationally how it works, then it will help them want to apply it. And I'm sure you give them all kinds of tools to be able to improve on that side, because often we have leaders who are very decisive, assertive, and might be missing on that empathetic or more emotional side. But of course, the benefits are there.
Totally correct, Amanda. But I will add one more comment. What people need to understand, and that's one of my goals, is that emotions are everywhere. The problem is that the word emotion has a very negative marketing. We use it in a negative way. When we say somebody is emotional, we say it in a negative way. It's not what I mean. What I want to transmit is that emotions, in one way or the other, are involved in every single decision that we make. Then good leaders, they need to understand this and to, I will say, master this part of our interaction with people. So it's a different way of listening, it's a different way of understanding the messages, and it's reading between the lines. And when you give them the tools on how to do it, it's like a decoding a new language.
Absolutely. I love that. So let's switch into the coaching industry. So you've been in coaching now for many years, and would you be able to share some of the ways you've achieved your goals when it comes to having a successful coaching business? So there are many new coaches out there, or coaches that might be struggling or looking for advice. So what advice would you have for coaches?
Okay, it's a very interesting question. I tell you, I'm coaching already for almost 20 years, and don't do the adding regarding my age. Okay, stay there. I already added too many 20. 20. So, but my recommendation is first of all, and this is what I do with my clients as well, is try to identify what is your UVP, your unique value proposition. What make you different? What are you bringing to the table? And this is not about certain level of education. Sometimes it's just a way of listening. Sometimes it's the way you question. You can construct questions and to ask your client. But there is always something that makes you different. You need to be clear on that because that is what you need to promote as a coach. Then to be also, I mean, what I try to do, I try not to talk about coaching sessions. I talk about coaching processes. So sometimes organizations, they say, okay, we want to coach somebody, whatever. And okay, that person, we have 1, 2, or 3 sessions. And I said, what are you looking for? Are you looking to check the box that the company is offering coaching session, or you really want that people will go through certain level of transformation? If your goal is that, let's talk about processes. Let's not talk about sessions. Even though it's a way even to how you charge, you know. I mean, I never charge per session because this is tricky. I mean, I said, listen, my commitment with the person is through a process. 6 months, let's say, to say something. Sometimes it's 3 months because it's something simple. But what I'm trying to say is let's be aware and mindful how the brain works. And the brain works and learns through repetition and through, let's say, going into the process to be able to accept to make changes. Makes sense? I don't want to
Yeah,
derail from your
absolutely.
question.
No, absolutely. This is super helpful, especially when you started with the UVP. So we use that in marketing. What's your unique
Mhm.
value proposition? We use that for
Exactly.
companies, but you need to also use that for yourself when building your coaching business. You're building a company, which could be you as a solopreneur, or you could be starting, a consultancy of coaches, etc. But what do you bring to the table that is different than others? At least one thing that is different or that you want to be known for. Um, so over the years, Carlos, have you developed a bit of a niche or a bit of a specialty with certain types of executives that companies like to go for you to you over and over?
Yes, and and I don't know if I'm proud of it, but I really enjoy it, to be honest. I mean, first of all, I mean, okay, my unique value proposition, of course, is to bring neuroscience to the sessions, right? So, and that is quite impactful because I right now I coach several people that from manufacturing companies, quite let's say companies that people leaders that they are not so again so much fan or friend of the EQ when you define in this way. But when you talk that the coach come from neuroscience, they love it. It's okay. Now I want, and now I accept it. So that's my value proposition. Through years, I became an expert, and I said almost in a funny way, to coach bullies. Bullies, let's take it in this way: bullies that can be coachable. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I mean, because at the moment that the company asked me to coach because they have a situation in the organization when a leader is too pushy, a leader is not dealing in the right way with people, the first things I try to do, and Successfinder helps me a lot on that, is to try to identify if I'm not going to coach a psychopath. Because in that case, I say no from the beginning. There's no way. So what coaching bullies taught me a lot. I learned so much because they are very clever people. Most of the time, the people I coach are in C-level or around that. So they already had a lot of success in business. And my first question is to show that both of us are at the same level. Bullies, and this is not, they are not gender differences. Male and female can be bullies in the same way. They are female, I mean, alpha females and alpha males. So, and when you are in that place, those people only respect alpha females or alpha males. And when I start my first, what we call it the chemistry meeting, what I do is to be quite, I will say, not push is not the right word, but the word will be determined in what I want, not only on what they want. And I put on the table my demanding, let's say, my demands, sorry, on if I will take this coaching assignment, I need to know something from the beginning. This is my first question. Is why, if you were so successful until now with your personality, show me or tell me why you will change that attitude. And I tell them, I know that you can change and do it better and become more productive, but that is my perspective. You need to convince me first with a good reason why you want to change.
That's a great question and way to see if your coachee is willing to change and
Exactly.
understands that there's an issue and a reason why they've been asked to have coaching sessions. And of course,
Exactly.
we know that sometimes what gets you somewhere is not what will help you keep developing as an executive and as a leader. And there are different situations, and the world continues to evolve. And you can't just keep doing things in the exact same way. There has to be an evolution.
Absolutely.
And then it's so interesting that things might not be natural to you, but with the help of a coach, you could practice, and practice some more and have the right tools and techniques to improve yourself as a leader, as an executive, and also as a person.
It's so right. It's so true, Amanda. What you say, you remind me my the last bully I was coaching short ago.
Oh no, I remind
That
you.
no, you. The question, your comment, please, Amanda. No, your comment. This person, again, I mean, I was trying to find out the why, and in the end, his main objective was to change at home. So, of course, a bully is bully everywhere. Okay, don't get me wrong. It's bully at home and it's bully at work. It's the same thing. But this person, and was not a young guy, he already understood all the negative consequences of being like this at home. And mainly in the relationship with one of her daughter, or his daughter. And our work was mainly focused on that because I knew that if he was able to understand that relationship, that he needs to change, he will apply it at work as well.
Absolutely. Our lives are so interconnected. You can't just
Of course.
separate work and home life, although we sometimes try to. But even now, with the work from home situation, they're even more connected.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
everything goes together. Let's jump into, I know you mentioned you're a user of Successfinder for many years. How would you say Successfinder has helped your clients on their journeys?
I like to call Successfinder, what will be in English, a catalyzer. I mean, something that will speed up processes. With Successfinder, I have the perfect roadmap to do my work as a coach. And it sounds like I'm promoting Successfinder. No, this is the truth. This is what I feel. Successfinder gives me the framework of my clients in just the first day. And not only it's giving me the strength of my clients, but also what we need to work on and which tool I can pull from that person can really make a change on whatever that person wants to make a change, right? So for me, Successfinder is, again, I will repeat it, the perfect roadmap to get into my client's soul, if you let me use the word soul, or life.
Amazing. I mean, of course, I agree. I'm a huge fan. I love using Successfinder for HR when we onboard new colleagues, new people to our teams, looking at what are the different behavioral preferences that each person has. What's the composition of a team? What strengths do each person bring? Does each person bring? And then what are areas of development where perhaps you could help someone? What are your own areas of development? So for self-awareness. And then even when you're coaching, giving examples of from your own life to others really helps them connect with you. So I think that self-awareness of as a coach also is super helpful.
Absolutely.
So we're wrapping up to the end of our time together, but I would like to ask you one final signature question. So, Carlos, how do you unlock your own potential?
Do you have time? No, I'm just kidding. This is a very, very important question. What comes to my mind right now is I know, and like everybody does, but for me, it's very clear that the brain is limitless. Until now, nobody knows what is the limit. The brain doesn't have any limit so far. I'm sure it has, but we don't know. At the moment, I'm working with a device, with an engine, or whatever you want to call it, in my brain. I need to be very mindful not to be myself who is holding myself back. So I need to be very clear and mindful that not to put in any excuse about I cannot do it. One of the components in my coaching practice that I use to work on my own potential is using a sentence every time I start a session. This is quite private, but doesn't matter. I want to share it with you. Every time I start a coaching session, and I have enough experience already, my mantra is, Carlos, what are you going to learn from this session today? And if at the end of the session, I cannot get one thing that I learned from that session, I was wrong. I did something wrong. Because every coaching session is a discovery. I don't have idea what the coach is going to say. I don't have idea what the coach is going to let me go. Then definitely, I'm completely mindful that the coaching session is the dance of two. And both parts needs to be involved, engaged, and at the same time needs to learn from each other. Of course, I have my skill, I'm a coach, but I don't tell this to the coachee. Of course, this is my inner dialogue. But if I didn't learn something in that conversation, I was not listening in the proper way.
Feel confident that you learned something at all your coaching sessions, having spoken to you a few times, Carlos, especially because you're so intentional about it and you have that knowledge about what limiting beliefs are, keeping your mind open, listening, continuing to improve. So yes, you coach your clients, but you also coach yourself. So I really love that. And thank you for sharing that amazing advice with us today.
No, my pleasure, really my pleasure. And it's the way I feel it, and it's the way I try to keep. It's about. I mean, I try to be humble. It doesn't mean I can do it all the time, but I can try to be humble because definitely that person in front of you is bringing something that you don't know, and to help that person better, you need to listen properly and to avoid the confirmation bias. That we have so
Absolutely.
much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining me today, Carlos. I really appreciate it.
No, it was such a pleasure, Amanda. Thanks to you, really. Thanks to you.
Thanks for joining us on People Potential with Amanda. I appreciate each and every single listen and view. If you've enjoyed this content, it would really mean the world if you could leave us a 5-star review. This will make a huge impact in increasing the visibility of this podcast, on top of brightening the day of a few people here at Successfinder who work really hard behind the scenes to make this all happen. We're continuously working on new episodes, so be sure to hit the subscribe button so you won't miss a thing. Until next time, stay curious.